Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And as we pass Memorial Day, the Phils have the best record in baseball. How'd they get here? We'll talk about it on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You may know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio for a little bit over 5 years now. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, hitting that subscribe button for the YouTube channel. All that stuff really helps us out on Locked On Phillies. And if you hit that subscribe button, it'll get you notifications when new episodes are posted. And that really helps you out as well. It's free and easy. So I appreciate everyone who's done that and everybody who's going to do that. Also, good luck to all you out there heading back to work today. I'm just like you, having the holiday off, long weekend, late night baseball between the Phillies and Athletics. Hang in there, folks. Summer is unofficially here in the Northeast, but a lot of us still going back to work today. So the Phillies went to work this weekend, though, and part of the reason why your weekend might have been long is because of the late night nuts games that you just could not go to sleep for. I mean, their series with the Athletics was perfect for a late night holiday weekend, early season baseball series, right? It's just like, you have a hard time watching all of it because the games don't start till 10. You're probably out doing something, or you're down the shore, or you're at the bar up here, or you're hanging out barbecuing in the backyard. So you kind of like have a half eye on the game, half eye not on the game. And all of these games were like weirdly close and having strange stuff happen down the stretch. It's just like, did that really happen? Like, what in the world? But the Phillies found a way to win 2 of 3 in the series. They lost their win streak on Sunday. We did not have an episode yesterday on Monday for Memorial Day, but back at Tuesday, and we'll do an extra one on Saturday this week just to give you the scheduling when episodes will come out. And by the way, we're going to do a standings check-in, and we're going to look ahead to the series with the Atlanta Braves. The Phillies made it 8 straight with their win on Friday. They made it 9 straight victories with their 9-6 win on Saturday, and then unfortunately fell 5-4 yesterday. But let's talk about Friday night first. Zach Wheeler, unbelievable, just basically untouchable, goes out there. And even though Jordan Romano had a rough 9th inning, the Phillies found a way to stave off a late comeback from the A's. You're like, okay, well, if everything's going to seem like that easy, Phil's in control the whole game, maybe a light push by the A's late, we should be able to handle it. And the bullpen wasn't terrible in this series, but I mean, neither bullpen was great, and the A's bullpen was definitely worse with some of the late home runs given up. But Friday was kind of business as usual. Like, there was nothing too crazy that happened Friday night besides Romano giving up 3 in the 9th. Then comes Saturday's game, and folks, buckle up. Like, Saturday was wild. Not only did you have Max Kepler facing Mason Miller down to one of the final outs of the game, down 1, and he just tanks 102 into the center field, not even seats because they're at a minor league park. But then you have Brandon Marsh throwing out the winning run at home plate in the 10th on review on a double play, could have been sacrifice fly, and then you have the Phillies running it up in the 11th. It was wild what happened in that game, and that was the win of the year so far for me, was what happened Saturday night in Sacramento. If you didn't stay up for it, go back and watch the highlights. It was just basically moment after moment of, I can't believe that just happened. From Kyle Schwarber hitting a late home run to the Max Kepler bomb we talked about, the Schwarber's triple in extra innings in the 11th that was aided by interference by a first baseman who was making his major league debut, who was the guy who got thrown out at home, who had the final out of the game via strikeout. Like, Jason Stark, who does the weird and wild column on The Athletic, is going to have a lot to say about that game. I can almost guarantee it in this week's edition of that. But it was a wild game that the Phillies found a way to win, and they had no business being in it. And they didn't score in the 10th. So, and then the Athletics loaded the bases with no outs in the 10th, and then you get the double play. And then next thing you know, it's just like, okay, well, let's keep rolling, boys. Let's keep playing. That 9th straight victory was something special. And winning this many games in a row has to really, really improve your standings. And it did. Again, we're going to talk about that coming up. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the pitching because I think I've properly outlined how it was a wild, weird series. If you didn't watch it, you missed the fever dream of 3 baseball games out in Sacramento. But the offense was okay. They were punishing bullpens still. They were trying to get after starting pitching, but that's still something they haven't done a great job of. But when their backs are up against the wall, they've had guys come through more often than not. So that's a continued theme of this season. What was a continuing theme out in Sacramento was pitchers not being happy with the mound. Now, it's not a good thing that Jose Alvarado is suspended, but as Mr. Mound Repair on the Phillies over the past couple of years, he probably would have lost his mind trying to pitch in Sacramento. Zach Wheeler complained heavily about the mound, how it was like cement right in front of the rubber, so you couldn't dig in to get leverage. So what you want to do is you want to dig in front of the rubber, right? That's where you see guys using their spikes to kind of like just kick into the dirt. And then what you do is it gives you leverage because that rubber goes down into the ground. That's how they push off. That's how they create velocity, stuff like that. If it's cement, you can't do that. You're kind of just like standing there and you can't finish your pitches the same way. You saw Christopher Sanchez in game 2 going through the issue of like trying to dig it out and not being able to, and they're just being like little clumps of hard dirt there that are now it's like kind of you're pitching on like gravel, and that doesn't really seem to work all that well either because you sink into it. And then Luzardo didn't look his best on Sunday. That's just a mess. I know you're playing in a minor league ballpark, but it sucks to have a not Major League Baseball quality mound out there, which is why when Wheeler didn't have his best start, he was actually pretty good. When you looked at Christopher Sanchez in game 2, and he struggled at points. When you look at Jesus Luzardo struggling on Sunday, I'm not looking at that and saying, oh, no, these guys, are they starting to cool off? It was just a weird mound out there in Sacramento, and I wouldn't take anything out of the pitching performances of the starters. And I guess that should transfer to the bullpen, but I'm less apt to say it about the bullpen only because they have less stock or built up with me. But I don't think the bullpen was terrible in this series. I mean, the pitching was just kind of like not the focal point. The focal point was, hey, we're going to have to put together big at-bats when it counts, and guys like Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper and Trey Turner and Max Kepler and Alec Boehm and all of these guys, they found ways to get it done. And that was impressive in their work in the series. And the Phillies, I mean, they're just still rolling. They won 9 of the last 10 series. It's not just about what they did in Sacramento against the Athletics. And you can see why the Athletics were on a 11-game losing streak when the Phils won their 9th straight, but also have a solid record compared to some of their peers because that team can win, man. Like, they got some good hitters. Jacob Wilson's really, really good. You saw Mason Miller like every game of the series. He's a great arm out of the bullpen, even though Max Kepler tanked one off of him. Like, that's not a pushover team like the Rockies or Pirates are. They're just a bottom half of the league team, I think. And the Phillies are still handling their business against that. It felt like the world's longest series. It felt kind of disappointing to not win Sunday's game because you had the win streak. But again, I told you, 2 out of 3. Go back and watch my crossover with Booney of Locked On A's. Phillies, 2 out of 3. I think that's the reality. I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be hard for them to play that whole road trip to a 7-0 record, but they played it to a 6-1 record. And I have so much stuff that I want to say about the standings that I want to get into that plays off of that. But I don't want to do it in this segment because we've got an entire segment dedicated to taking a look at the standings coming up next because Memorial Day weekend has come and gone. Yeah, and I know we talked about that earlier in the episode. It sucks. You got to go back to work today. Sorry. If I could call you out, I would, but unfortunately, I don't have that type of pull with all of your bosses. But with Memorial Day weekend come and gone, that's normally a time frame where you say, okay, we know generally what these teams are and what the storylines are going to be. and where they're at in the standings and what kind of team like they look like they are. Now, there's still like 100 some games left, right? But when you get to Memorial Day, you have a first determination on what a team is. Some people have not made any grand proclamations about a team until this holiday, all season long. And it feels like we've already gone through a long, long season with a lot of stuff happening. But there's still a lot to go, and the standings looking pretty darn good for the Philadelphia Phillies. We'll talk about that coming up next as we continue today's episode. Let's talk about FanDuel first, though, because the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. So, Minnesota, Indiana, New York, Oklahoma City. I said them last for a reason. They're the favorites. I mean, look at the teams that are left, and the series are they're pretty darn entertaining with the star players being the star players. So FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. And before tip-off and live, you can bet. So player props, check them out for the star players. Performance trends, same game parlays, you can bet all of it. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So take a look at SGA, take a look at Ant Edwards, take a look at Jalen Brunson, take a look at Tyrese Halliburton. Overs. They're all scoring like crazy. And if you're new to FanDuel, you can score like crazy too. It's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. And if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Go ahead and check out our friends over at FanDuel. Standings check time. And folks, are you going to feel good about this? So Memorial Day weekend, the reason why it's this kind of deadline for when you have to start taking a peek at the standings is because, well, when you start the season, it's very easy, and we do it. Like I do it, you do it, we all do it. There's no denying it, but you try and fight against it, right? It's kind of like eating junk food. Everybody does it, but you try and do it as little as possible so that you stay in good shape. Like a cheat day here or there is not bad, but your goal should be to not do that. And the goal should be to get to Memorial Day with an open mind on the team. But now we are the day after Memorial Day, and it's normally right around the 50-game mark, depending on what team you're looking at. And that leads to you having a solid sample size of what the team is that you're watching. So you're about a third of the way through the season, right? That's the idea. And that gives you not a final number on teams, right? You don't know who teams are, but you have like a silhouette of who teams are. And it's also the first time you kind of take a peek at divisional standings to say, here's who's got a chance in this division. Is this team out? And once you're through the first third, you can kind of make a good determination on teams. And the Philadelphia Phillies determination, well, it's strong. It's very, very strong. The Phillies, as we sit here today, on March, 27th, the day after Memorial Day 2025, have the best record in baseball by winning percentage, and that's all that really matters, right? So the Tigers actually have one more win at 35-20, but the Phillies at 34-19 are the top team in all of Major League Baseball. And just like think about what we've gone through this year with the early season bullpen issues and struggles, to Ranger Suarez not being ready, so Taijuan Walker's got to be in the rotation, to Walker actually being solid, to moving him back to the bullpen, to Nola being terrible for the entire start to the year, to him going on the injured list, to Walker coming back, to Jose Alvarado's suspension, to trying to figure out what you're doing in the minors, the Mick Abel game. Like, there have been a lot of up and down moments in this Phillies season so far. And there were plenty of times where people were like, this team isn't good. They're not putting together wins. They go on the road and they lose a series to the Atlanta Braves, who they're going to play against tonight at Citizens Bank Park. A lot on that later in the episode. They get shut out twice by the Cardinals. This team just doesn't have it. They don't create enough offense. Slow your roll. Get to Memorial Day. Think about what you see here. if you were one of those folks that said, "Oh, Phillies are not going to make the playoffs. Phillies are not a good team. Phillies are this, Phillies are that," in a negative way, do you feel silly that we're only a third of the way through the season and they have the best record in baseball? Because you should. This team's really, really damn good. Now, they added to their run differential on this road trip. I always like to look at run differential because sometimes you can look at the record and it's an indication of an easy schedule. Run differential is kind of that great equalizer because you could both, like, let's say you play the same teams and some play a little bit tougher, some play a little bit easier, depending on the time of season it is, which is what the schedule is. But like you play the similar schedule and you have a similar record, but one team has won those games by combined like 200 runs, and another team has won those games by combined 100 runs. That's how you make the determination when records start to get tight. So the Tigers are actually pretty darn good in the plus minus. They're plus 81 in the run differential. The best team in baseball at the Yankees at plus 111. The Phillies are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th at plus 42, tied for 6th with the San Francisco Giants. All the teams above them are plus 60 or higher. So they've got some work to do. They're not in the top tier of run differential, but they're winning tight games. Now, for some people that might say, according to these standings, hey, I know that they are the top team in baseball, but they're winning tight games. They don't have that big of a run difference, so maybe they're gettable, right? Like maybe once stuff stops bouncing their way and they stop hitting late home runs like they did in Sacramento or in Houston, like maybe that's when they come back down to earth, possibly. Or you could look at it and say, hey, they're learning how to win tight games. Experienced team already knows how to do that. They're going to be dangerous in the postseason. Whatever case, the Phillies have the best record in baseball, trailed by two American League teams, Tigers and Yankees. And then the Cubs have the second best record in the National League. Like, unbelievable. Now, they're tied with the Dodgers. They're tied with the Mets, but still, the Cubs, based on tiebreaker, they're sitting up there with the second best record in the National League. So there are some cream of the crop teams in the NL that are separating themselves. Taking a further look at that, the only other team to keep an eye on outside of the Phillies, the Cubs, the Dodgers, and the Mets. Right now, actually, those are the four juggernaut teams. And then there's this group of what we'll call the Tier 1B teams. San Diego has 30 wins. San Francisco has 31 wins. St. Louis has 30 wins. So let's call them the Killer S's are down there, all in the 30-win range. And then it drops to Arizona at 27 and 27, 500. So only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams in the National League are over 500. And that's about even on the mark, but just you have the higher level teams and then you have the bottom feeders like Washington, Miami, Pittsburgh, Colorado. Atlanta, who comes in tonight 25 and 27, has the fifth worst, I should say, record in the National League. So there is a big grouping of a lot of teams between like 25 and 35 or 33, I guess we'll say it, is where that is. And that can flip-flop really quickly over the course of a month. So none of this is by any way done. But if you're I don't check standings until Memorial Day guy, and you turn on your phone, guy or gal, sorry, and you turn on your phone, you look up the standings, you pull that up, and it says Phillies are first in baseball. Phillies are first in the National League. Phillies are first in the NL East. You're like, oh, okay, well, this start to the season could not have gone better. Let's just take a little bit of a deep dive into the division because you should be so excited that the Phillies are a top team in baseball. And like they got here by playing a relatively easy schedule, but you will take it. And the schedule doesn't get much harder until like June. So play out the rest of May, which is only a couple of days. Okay. It gets a little harder here in like 2 weeks, I should say. The time is flying, folks, with this baseball season. But they've got some more handleable series coming up, including Atlanta tonight. Now, in the division, Atlanta is 8.5 games back on the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 25 and 27. The Nationals, 10 games back. The Marlins, 12.5 games back. I'm going to say it right now. Marlins out of contention. Nationals out of contention. Braves, life support. Now, 8.5 can be made up. Stranger things have happened. But with the stuff that they're dealing with and dealt with at the start of the season, they could be in a little bit of trouble. The only saving grace that they have, Ronald Acuna Jr. is back. And he hit a home run on his very first pitch he saw this year in his first start back with the big league club, coming off of injury. We'll see what they are with him. They could be a really big bounce back candidate in the post-Memorial Day section of the schedule. I don't know what to make of them with Ronald Acuna Jr. now back. He's an MVP candidate type of player. But barring anything crazy there, the Braves have an uphill battle. The Mets and the Phillies are going to be duking it out this year. You could just feel it, right? Mets are a game and a half back of the Phillies for first place in the division. That's kind of where they've been hanging out. They just took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers. Like, the Mets are a quality baseball team, and it pains me to say that, but they are. So you're going to have to be on your best. I think you might have to win 100 games to win this division. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think you might have to win 100 games to win the NL East, and the Phillies are at 34. So how do they get to those extra 66 wins? Well, they're going to have to play pretty darn consistently good baseball, and that starts tonight with taking on those Atlanta Braves. If the Phillies win 2 out of 3 in this series against the Braves, do we start to talk about them being close to dead? Not in May, right, or early June, but you start to take a look at it and you say, okay, this would be a long way towards getting the Braves out of contention in the division and out of playoff contention. Like, if the Phillies can take 2 or 3 against Atlanta, and they did not down at Truist Park, but they can at Citizens Bank Park, that would be a big, big win for the Philadelphia Phillies. So coming up next, we're going to preview that series. It's a huge one. For the first time in a while, a Phillies series actually has some juice. And I think the Phils are up for it. We'll talk about why as we wrap up today's episode. Now, the number one reason why the Philadelphia Phillies have some juice, or maybe their fan base has some juice, is what's going on tonight at Citizens Bank Park. We're going to get into so much more with this series over the next couple of days. Preview the individual games, go through the storylines. But where it starts tonight is the pitching matchup and the man on the mound, not for the Phillies, but for the Atlanta Braves. Now, for the Phils, you do have Ranger Suarez. So there is some history there going down to Atlanta and taking game 1 of the NLDS back in 2023 in a series that ended up becoming a whole bunch of trash talk back and forth and weird managerial moves, but the Phillies found their way to win it. So Ranger Suarez has had some big starts against the Braves. Now, they've mostly been on the road. The guy that is coming into Citizens Bank Park has already made it probably his least favorite place to play. And this has happened multiple times. But Spencer Strider takes the mound for the Atlanta Braves tonight at Citizens Bank Park, and I have to imagine Phillies fans are going to be letting him hear it. For all the comments he made where he wishes they could go back to when there was no fans during the COVID era, he said that Citizens Bank Park, oh, it's not that loud, whatever. They're going to be quiet and wants them to be quiet. The fan base understands that Spencer Strider does not like to be yelled at. And Philadelphia loves to yell at people. It is a bad, bad combination that Spencer Strider has created for himself. And it's been added to by the fact that he has not had a lot of success here in Philadelphia pitching against his team. He's better there at home, as most pitchers are. But when he comes into here, it's just been a house of horrors, especially in big games. Now, this is not a big game per se, right? It's a game between a division leader and a team 8.5 back in their division in late May. So at the end of the day, this is not going to be the difference between winning or losing anything, tonight's outcome. But still, you better believe the bank's going to be rocking, and the main fire starter is going to be Spencer Strider on the mound, who's going to get the people fired up by just his presence alone. That's a great way to start this series because it's a tone-setting thing for the fan base. It's like, oh, we hate this guy. He talked trash about our fans, or he doesn't like it. He showed weakness. We're going to exploit that weakness, and our team is rolling, and your team's not good, and we're going to go out there and try and dominate you, and if we win tonight, we can build off that momentum. That's the thought process going into game 1 of this series, but it's not so simple as the fan base is going to yell at Spencer Strider, so the Phillies win. Now, the Phillies are majorly favored in this game. Strider's numbers are not great. He's 0-2 with a 5.79 ERA, so he also hasn't figured it out. So another sign of weakness there for Spencer Strider. But Strider-Suarez is a great first game matchup. Then you get Smith-Shawver against Wheeler, which Wheeler should dominate. Game 2 should be the Philadelphia Phillies to have. And then you get Sale Sanchez matchup of the strong lefties in the final game of the series. So you see some big-time arms. You're always going to with the Philadelphia Phillies taking on a division rival, especially the Atlanta Braves. But the pitching matchups are great in this series, and you're going to have to keep an eye on that. The bullpen for the Phillies, we'll see. Now, they had an off day yesterday, which is great because they come back from the West Coast. They won 6 of 7 games. And then they get the day off to rest and recuperate and everything. So everybody should be available out of the pen tonight. Hopefully you get a long performance by Ranger Suarez and the Braves don't get to him early. But the bullpen was a point that I was worried about coming out of the Rockies series. And they didn't give me a whole ton of confidence in that series against the Athletics. But we know what their deal is going to be. It's going to be great starting pitching, and then hold on to your hats as the bullpen tries to lock stuff down. And the Braves have had moments like that this year, too. Their bullpen has not been great. They've been trying to sign guys on minor league deals to find pieces that fit, and they haven't really been able to do so. So could this game be more like that Athletics series than not? I think so. And the way you counter that is by having much better starting pitching because you're going to be on your home mound instead of a mound that clearly the guys didn't like down there, out there, over there in Sacramento. Either way, you know what I mean. So pitching on a more comfortable mound should lead to that. I actually see the series as pretty low scoring because of the pitching matchups, even though the offenses are getting going. Like Ronald Acuna Jr. back for the Braves definitely helps them. Matt Olson is not at his best year. Austin Riley is not at his best year. They don't have exactly this crazy amount of offensive output. And that's part of the reason why the Braves have not been that good. I mean, Matt Olson has 12 home runs. Schwarber has 18. Marcell Ozuna not having that crazy of a year. He's batting .278. His power numbers are down from last year. Maybe he'll have a hot stretch, but right now he's not hot. And Michael Harris has 31 RBIs. Schwarber's got 40. I mean, the Phillies have guys leading the Braves in every category. And normally the Braves' bread and butter is our offense is amazing and our pitching is above average. Now it's our pitching is above average and our offense is average. And that's not enough to get it done against teams like the Phillies who have elite level pitching and above average offense, right? That's it. That's the kind of story of this series. The Phillies are the better overall team. They're playing better overall baseball. But will the pressure get to them? That's something else I'll be watching for, especially with the bullpen. From going Pittsburgh to Colorado to Sacramento taking on the A's, does the pressure of this series get to the Philadelphia Phillies playing a divisional opponent, playing a tougher opponent for the first time in what feels like a month, but is really only about a week and a half? Does that start to press them a little bit into uncharacteristic mistakes that we did not see when they were on the 9-game win streak? Can they hold their resolve as the best team in baseball? You better believe they know it, right? That they are the best team in baseball, especially with the off day and the travel day. They come back and they're feeling good about themselves. And the Braves are coming in here with something to prove. So I don't know. Can the Phils bounce back? They were on a 9-game win streak. And sometimes when you're doing that, it feels like you're rolling downhill. And then when you lose a game, all your momentum stops. Or it's just a bump, and then you keep on plugging away and winning. We'll find that out tonight as well, if they can continue to build on the momentum of Series 1 and forget about the could-have-been 10-game win streak that came to an end on Sunday. So a lot of interesting trends that are going to be up against the ringer in this series. The guys you want to watch at the dish, look for some of the righties to get. Nick Castellanos has not really been driving the baseball. He crushed the Braves in the postseason 2 years ago and 3 years ago. So maybe this is what he needs, the Braves at Citizens Bank Park, to get going. I would look for a big series from Nick Castellanos. I would also keep an eye on Bryce Harper, who has really heated up. But again, he just kind of shows this glimpse of power and then it's gone for a couple of days. He might have a big series as well just because of the gravity of the situation. So those are a couple of the guys that I'm looking at. Brandon Marsh had a sneaky good series out in Sacramento, but we'll see what he's able to do. He's not going to play against Sale, so I don't know if he's going to get enough opportunity. He's put together good at-bats against Spencer Strider as well, so maybe he gets a chance tonight. But those are some of the names to keep a peek at if maybe you're betting on the series or you just want to sound smart around your friends and say, hey, I think this guy's going to have a good couple of games. That's where I'm looking. And prediction for the series, Phil's take 2 or 3. I think they do. I think they take the Wheeler start in game 2. And then I think they definitely can take either game 1 or game 3. I'm not really sure which. Those are both kind of coin flip games. I would probably say tonight with Suarez versus Strider is probably the way to do it. But, hey, Sanchez could beat Sale. Sale has not been his Cy Young self. We'll see. I'd like to win the first 2 games so you don't have to face Sale with anything on the line. But either way, Phils are going to win the series 2-1, and they're going to move on with like their 10th of their last 11 series win. And you're going to feel better about the division. That's what we're hoping for, right? That's what I'm rooting for. That's what I believe is going to happen. We'll preview the next games individually, and we'll react to tonight's game on tomorrow's episode. But that's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for joining us. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out. I'll talk to you tomorrow on our next episode of Locked On Phillies.